Hi everyone, my name is Agnieszka Zygmunt and I'm the leader UX researcher in TenCloud. So on one hand, I'm taking care of everything related with the research. So when we are talking about discovery, like the UX research, but I'm also working on strategy and service design. So I'm not only looking for the insights, I'm also creating the services with my team. And on the other hand, I'm leading the team of the UX experts. And if we will go deeper with the field I'm working in, we can find out that the UX as a topic is a really broad topic. So we have like UX strategy, we have discovery, we have accessibility, we have usability testing, UX research, service definition, content audit, and all other different things. And there's one thing in the middle of all the services, values. So something that I want to talk to you today more about, because when we are talking, I hope that we all know the definition of the values. We know what the value is. And when we are thinking about the values in the context of the creating a product, for example, we are thinking about that we have user values. For example, we have buyer values because not always the user is the buyer. We can have unique value, like from the unique value proposition canvas, when we are looking for something unique to attract users to be more, to be better than competitors. And we also have something like creator values or company values that we are working for, because as a creator, as a designer, as a person who's working on creating something, we also have an impact on the product. Of course, we have all other different types of the values that also have impact on the product, like market values, community values, cultural values, and family values even. But we all know that we have the values. But if we can look for the process of creating the product, we can find out that if we'll call the product and like compare this to the planet, and this planet have a different orbits, like the closest orbit to the planet, it's something that we are taking care the most. So we are focusing on features, we are focusing on bugs that we want to fix. We are focusing on the big backlog for the development or for the design that we have or the new features we want to add. But when we are thinking about the values, it's something that in most of the cases is somewhere behind like the last orbit of this planet. So we know that this value, this kind of the information exists, but to be honest, we not exactly know how we should use this to build the product. Sometimes we use this only in the communication, for example, on the website. Sometimes we use this in the strategy. But when we are talking exactly about building a product, about design process, for example, we don't know how we should use the value. But to answer this question, we need to go back to the basics. Because when we are talking about the values, to understand the values, we need to talk about promises and fulfilling these promises. Because when we are thinking about the values, we have really simple process that we have the promise, so something at the beginning. Then we have fulfillment of this promise to deliver the value. The value is always at the end. So we need to have the promise at the beginning. Then we have fulfillment. It's the solution to give the value to the user at the end. And to explain this process, it's really simple. For example, we can think about milkshake. Like we can have this promise that it will be the best milkshake ever you have. That the best milkshake that you will be thinking about this all of the time. So you're going through the process of fulfilling, like you are going to the shop, you are checking the menu, you are choosing the milkshake you want to have, you're making the order. And if everything was correct, at the end, you have this value of the best milkshake you ever have. So maybe it will be value connected with being happy or something similar. Of course, it can be compared to any other process. For example, today, like probably like the promise for the stock for this whole event was that you will learn something new. So this is the promise. Then we have the fulfilling. So it's all about the preparation. It's about choosing the people who will be speaking today. It's about, for example, my preparation of the presentation for you. And at the end, I hope that you will receive the value of learning something new. And if we want to go deeper, even deeper to this process, we can find out that behind every stage of this process, we have some details. So when we have the promise, behind this, we have needs and problems of the users. Like needs and problems are building the promises. When we are thinking about fulfilling these promises, it's just about the solution. It's about the service, for example, we are building. It's about the product, the whole context. And when we are thinking about the values, it's really connected with the expectations. Value is like the group of different expectations. So like one name for different expectation about, for example, transparency. Like the value is transparency, expectation is something specific related to the transparency. But when we are creating products, what I find out from my experience, in most of the cases, we like to focus on the solution. So something that is in the middle. It's not at the beginning, it's not at the end. We are focusing on the middle, and it's okay because the solution in most of the situation is the biggest part. Because, for example, we are building something for years, so it's quite hard to not focus on this. But if we will forget about that this is in the middle, so we forget about the promise at the beginning, we forget about the value, solution that doesn't matter, because if we don't have the promise, probably the user will build the promise by themselves. And maybe this promise will not be exactly what we want to share with them. If we don't have the value, even if somebody will use our solution, they will find out that, okay, like this solution is not for me because this is not the value I want to have, because we don't know what value we want to what promise we want to fulfill, what value we want to give them. And also, if we are only focusing on the solution, we are forgetting about really important connection here, that not the solution is building the value, the promise is building the value. The promise is building the expectation. What we have at the beginning, mainly in the communication, it's building what somebody is expecting at the end. Of course, the solution, it's something that it's delivering the value, because if we don't have the solution, we are not able to fulfill the promise and deliver the value. But to build the expectation for the value, we need to have this promise at the beginning. And there's a question, okay, like, so we have the values, we have this process, we have this promise, fulfilling, and value. We know that if we want to create a solution, and if we want to give the value at the end, we need to have the promise. So how to build the promise in this case? So the best example to understand this is Matryoshka. So like with Matryoshka, when you want to build the Matryoshka from the beginning, you need to start with the smallest element. It will be in the middle, so no one will be seeing this. You will be seeing the biggest part of Matryoshka, but you need to have the smallest element in the middle to be able to build and to use all the pieces of Matryoshka. So this is the same situation with promises. If you want to build a promise, you need to start from the end. You need to start with the value. You need to ask yourself, okay, so what values are they expecting? The user is expecting from us. If you have the answer for this, if you, for example, find them in the research, then you are asking yourself, okay, so I know about the values. What are the exact expectations that are related to values, to go more into details? And after these two steps, then you are able to answer, okay, so I know the values, I know the expectation, so what I should promise to them. It's also really simple, like with this process, promise, fulfilling, values. We have here value, expectation, promises. But believe me, it can change how you're thinking about about the process, because mainly when we are thinking about adding values and promises and everything that is related to this part of UX, we are thinking that it will be taking a lot of the time, or for example, after a few months of the research, we will find out that we need to build a whole new service or a whole new product. But to be honest, by using these two things, promises fulfilling values and value expectation to promises, you can find out that sometimes you don't need big changes. It's helping you to understand user better and to understand what you exactly need to change in the design, but also in the communication to fulfill the promise to give the value. So let me tell you a story from my experience. A few years ago, I was working for a client. They want to redesign the training service. It was one of the biggest projects. So they was knowing that there is a problem with the target group, but no one was knowing what's the cause of the problem. Like no one. So we started like with the user research. We had lots of interviews, surveys, focus group. We had a lot of workshops. Everything was in place when we were talking about the process. And after we map everything, like we map all the needs, problems, the whole journey, the whole service blueprint, we find out that we have a lot of information. We are seeing that we have problems, but we still don't know what's causing these problems. And to be honest, we were stressing out because like we didn't have a lot of time to make another round of the research. We, to be honest, had everything what we can find out from the interviews. So there was a puzzle that was missing. And then we decided, okay, maybe we need to take a step back. And what we did, we decided to add two additional points to the customer journey map. So instead only focusing on stages, actions, problems, and emotions, we decided, okay, what if we will map promises? So what we are promising to the users, and if we will map values. But not only like values that user is expecting, but also values that we have in the company. And it was like game changer for us, like a jackpot, because we find out that we have few points in the whole journey when we have really big promises, but we don't have anything when we are talking about values that we are delivering. So we call this black value hole, but to be honest, it was the best name. And we decided, okay, like if we are saying that there's missing something, what if we will try to fill this out with small actions, not with changing the whole service, but for example, like we add additional email, we make some small automatization, we add some phone call to the client during the process. And after a few weeks of this experiment of testing the small changes, because it was really easy to add these points to the customer journey, to the process, we find out that most of the problems are gone. Like we didn't even think that it will be such a good idea that such a small changes in the process can solve the biggest problem, because we are starting to deliver the value to the users, and instead of like losing a lot of money on building a whole new service, it was like only a few percent of the whole budget to introduce the small changes to the current service. And it's still really working really well, because they are still working on values and checking if they are delivering the values and good promises. But in this case, it was about like checking where we have holes with the values and filling these holes. In another case, you can imagine that you have the product. And I know it's a silly example, but in this example, your product is a sun. So you can tell one person that it will support your health, because being on a sun is helping with vitamin and it's better for your bones. When we are talking to another person, you can tell them that it's supporting producing energy for you. Maybe for another that it will make you more happy, because for example, for this person, happiness is the value they are expecting. We have a similar approach for the last product we were working on in TenClouds on virtual branch. So this is the product for banking services. When we have this opportunity to have like video conference with the advisor, and what we find out that we have a lots of users, not only like because we have banks clients, we have like different type of the advisors. And because we have lots of users, we have lots of different needs and the problems. And what we find out that even if we have different needs, we can solve them, like different needs and different problems, we can solve them with the same feature. But what we need to change is the promise that we are giving at the beginning. So instead, because we were knowing what's the value, what's the solution, and what's the promise, instead of building a new, for example, features or new solution for another target group, we just decide what's working really well, that we will be changing only the promises and offering the same product, but with different promise at the beginning, because we know that this solution will also deliver the values. But this is about the communication. And what if we are thinking about values as part of the design process? Because values are not only about the communication. So you can also check as an example, for example, Google Calendar, because when we're thinking about the values, we need to remember that they're everything in the product. Like it's communication, it's how we approach, how we building the processes, how we building the user flow, how we are designing something. For example, if somebody is looking for the privacy, it's not only about telling them that you will have, it's a private for it's a solution that it's supporting privacy, for example. It's also about like small features that, for example, in Google Calendar, if you're creating an event, you can make the event private. So you're seeing in your calendar, but nobody more is seeing this event. If somebody is looking for transparency, you can think how you should build, for example, the pricing plan and this the way how you want to design, how you want to show the comparison between the plans. Because if somebody is looking for the transparency, probably you need to add more information, not only the prices, but more information about everything to make a better overview of different plans. If somebody is looking for values related to the community, and for example, you are not able to build like the whole community because it's a lot of work, maybe you can design something, for example, FAQ or knowledge base, that it will be giving the feeling, giving the value of the community, even if you don't have the community. The changes the direction you will choose when we are talking about the design. It's really important because design is also affecting design can also be affected by the values, and how you are designing something is a part of the solution that is delivering the values. But okay, like I'm talking about the values, I'm talking about the examples, how they help me with the projects. But to use the values, we need to have the values. So the next question is, okay, like how to find the values if you want to use them. So of course, because I'm the UX researcher, the first thing is just to look for them in the research. But I'm not talking about any specific approach when we are thinking about tools of methods, because you can use interviews, you can use surveys, anything that is working for you and for this project. But it's about for what you are looking for, because if you will ask directly the user what values they are expecting, probably like it will be really hard for them to answer you, because values are really difficult to explain sometimes. But if you will be looking for feelings, if you will be looking for emotions, if you will be looking for expectations, and then you will try to compare this with all other stuff all other insights about problems, needs, and actions, and the context, it will help you to understand what values you need to, for example, deliver at the specific point of or stage of the process. If you are not able to make the whole research, you can establish this with stakeholders. And we are making really simple tasks with our clients. It's working really, really well. That we have 3 steps. So first of all, we are talking about the users, about their users, who is the user, their problems, needs, motivations, and sometimes goals. Then if we have like this base that is explaining us the user, we are asking, okay, so we have the user, we know what they want. Can you explain us what are their values and expectations? So we are mapping the values and expectations. And at the end, we have the users, we have the expectations. At the end, we are asking about the promises. So, okay, so what we should promise them because if you are looking for the problems, needs, if you are looking for the expectations, what do you think that we should promise them? And it's also working really well when we are talking about the solutions that are existing already. For example, on the last workshop with the client, we did this exercise. So we established the users, we established the problems, then we established the expectations and the values. And then we asked them, okay, so you know what they expect from you? Can you please tell us what you are promising them right now? Not what you want to promise them, but what you are promising them right now. And what was really exciting for us that the client saw that when we were talking about user expectations, they were talking about partnership, they were talking about security, about transparency. But when we started talking about, okay, what you are promising them right now, it was all about financial expectation. So it was the point that everything was clear that user is expecting something related to partnership, for example. We are offering them, we are promising them something related to financial expectations. So it was the point when we just tell them, okay, like probably we need to make a step back and just change the promises, because as you can see, what you promise didn't match what they expect. So this is the reason why it's not working. And if you have the values, because you find them in the research or you establish them with the stakeholders, you just need to map them. Like, please use just customer journey map or checklist. Checklist is really simple, but to be honest, it's one of the in my opinion, it's one of the most powerful tools to use when we are thinking about designing something or creating just the service. Because if you create a checklist of the values that you need to deliver in every stage, because it's not that you have one value for the whole product. Probably like in the first stage, for example, if you are buying ticket for something, you need to have transparency, you need to have security because you will be paying for something. But for example, in another stage, when you are on the concert, when you are on conference, you have another values that you're expecting. For example, having fun or meeting new people or learning something. So having like different checklists for every stage of the process, it's helping you just to check if I have everything. Okay, I have security, I have having control in the communication, I don't have transparency. So how I can add the transparency to the product, to the process. Maybe it will be in the copy, maybe it will be in another form, maybe I will need to add another feature that will be giving this giving this feeling, giving this value. So simple checklist, it's helping you to really remember that you need to add specific values to specific part of the product. And if you have the values, if you mapped the values on customer journey or created a checklist, please remember also about choosing the priority. Because when we are talking about the values, it's the same like with the features. You are not able to give everything at once because it's too hard. Because you need to build something that will be giving this value. So you need to, for example, build this feature. But when we are talking about the values, like the simple division is for the base values and unique values. We all know about the unique values and that we need to have the unique values. But we are not talking about the base values. And it's the same like base features that if you have base values, like probably user will not notice this, but if you don't have the base values, they will notice it, because for them it's like the basic, it's the must have that you need to have this in your solution. So always be sure that you have the base values, and also be sure that you're adding something extra as a unique value, because having only the base, you are the same like competitors. Adding something from the unique values is, it's just helping you to attract the user, to reach the user, to just show them that it's worth to use the solution. So summing up, because I'm ending with my time, when we are talking about the values, please remember that values are helping us to design for the expectations of users, not ours. It's the tool that is helping us to better understand what we should deliver at the end for the user, because this is the last element. It's helping us to remember that the solution is in the middle. It's not at the beginning, it's not at the end. It's helping to fulfill the promise, to deliver the value for the users. And if you have the values, like please stop saying that you have the values. Please stop only putting them on your website, for example, or on the content version. Like start using them as a tool, because it's really simple. You can just create a checklist and just check if you have anything. You can use the values to help you to build a better features, better product, better processes. And as I was saying in the first example, from my experience with work with the clients, it's also helping you to avoid the situation when you have problems, but you don't know what's causing the problems, because you were never thinking about if you are delivering the promise that you are giving to the user. So thank you very much. It was really nice to share something with you. And of course, if you have any questions, I will be really happy to answer them.
Great, thank you very much. That was really great deep dive insight into kind of just the difference between kind of values and promises. And what I took away from it was it's really marketing is how I see a lot of it, and the collaboration that often doesn't happen enough between the people building the products and the people marketing.
Yeah, I agree, like in 100%. I know that like my experience is really related with the marketing. Like I'm the industrial designer. I was industrial designer at the beginning. Then I changed because I was focusing mainly on the research. But I was working also with marketing strategists and business strategists. And I really believe like we need to have this holistic overview. Like we have the specialization, but we need to remember that everything have impact on everything. So the product have impact on marketing, marketing have impact on the product. So we need to work as a team and understand that it's just connecting instead of only thinking about building the product or building the strategy or just execution of the strategy.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm all for more cross-functional collaboration. So I have a question, but if anybody does have any questions out there, please do post them in on the chat box on the right-hand side of the screen. But I want to just jump in with the values. What I've often kind of, when you were elaborating on some of those, I was thinking of what other people have called non-functional requirements. So is it secure? Is it stable? Is it kind of, or the illities, it's accessibility, it's those kind of things. Is that what you're referring to with values, or can you give me some more tangible examples if it's something slightly different?
When we are talking about the values, I don't know if I answered correctly, because I had a problem of hearing you for a second. I know that we have the problem with my connection. But when we are talking about the values, I never divide them between like something that's related to the technical and something that's related to non-technical, because it's on our side to decide how we want to deliver this value. If we will be delivering this by technical way, by, for example, building the feature, or if we'll be delivering this by the communication. Sometimes maybe it will be both, because as I was showing on the examples, like the transparency, it's not only about the communication, it's also about how we build something. Like security, it will be about the technical part of the solution, because, for example, if we have video conferences, we can choose different types of transferring the video. One will be more secure, one will be less. But also it will be about how we will design the whole experience and how we will communicate the whole experience and security of this. So it's still connecting. Like, we have the values, and then we need to decide what we want to do and how we want to deliver. What will be the best path to deliver, technical or not technical.
Excellent. And I had one other question, but I might actually post it on the Slack group, because I love the explanation. But for me personally, maybe I'm just a little bit slower at picking these things up. I would love maybe a bit more, if you had an example of, okay, here's some promises or kind of values, or sorry, what is it? It's the values, the promises, and the I'm getting confused now with them. But if you could share, I'll write the question in on the Slack group, and it'd be great if you could just give maybe just a kind of, okay, here's an example of a project you're working on. These were the user needs, and these were the values, and these were the promises, so that people can have a bit more tangible example of what was working.
Yeah, I will be happy to, because I know that, like, I was knowing that it's only like 25 minutes, so it's for me,
it's hard to get everything.
Yeah, especially that I love to talk a lot, and I want to share as much possible as you can share with somebody. Values are a really deep topic if we want to talk about them. So I'll be happy to share more on the Slack what they can.
Great. And we have some feedback from Brenda, who said, "Thank you, Agnieszka. That was a valuable speech. I definitely took notes from it." So you've got some admirers out there. So thank you very much for sharing your case study.
Thank you very much.